Hello friends. So today we will discuss introduction to SQL. So SQL is a standard language for accessing and manipulating databases. So in our previous video we created one table known as marks, and with that table we will try to understand the meaning of this accessing and manipulating database. So if you remember, this was the table that we created with name marks. It has 5 fields or 5 columns: name, then 3 subjects: physics, chemistry, maths, and corresponding class. So, since we are just discussing for our understanding, it's a very smaller table, but in practical, there are very large table. And if, by large table, I mean there are so many large number of columns, so many large number of rows, and most of the time for our analysis purpose, we never need entire data or entire table. We only need a very smaller set or a smaller part from that large table, and for that SQL will help us. So for example, this is the table, and say I just want name of students who are studying in class 10th. So basically there are 3 students I can see who are studying in class 10th: Utsav, Barak, and Tony, and none other student is in class 10th. So I only need three name of these 3 students. So I will write this query. So we will discuss more how we can write the query in our subsequent videos. But for now, just try to understand what we mean by querying the database, accessing the database. So this is the query that I have written, where it will give the output in the form of Utsa, Barak, and Tony, and these are basically name of the students who are studying in class 10th. Now if I execute this query, you can see I am getting 3 rows: Utsav, Barak, and Tony. So this is the output that we were expecting, and we have got the same output. So this is exactly what we meant by querying the database. Now I can query the entire table here. So this was the entire table. Now this is just one example that we just discussed, where we just take name of the students who are studying in class 10. There can be so many permutations and combination. For example, I might need name of students whose marks in physics are greater than 90. So if you see entire table, you can find only John is having marks in physics more than 90, and marks he is getting 91 marks. So there can be like cases where you want name of students who are studying in class 12, as well as having marks in chemistry less than 80. So if you want so there are 2 students who are studying in class 12th, but there is a condition that you want that particular students whose marks in chemistry is less than 80. Now John is having marks more than 80, but Muhammad is having marks less than 80. So we will get only this particular row, and this way we can query the database as per our requirement. And most of the data analysis is data analysts use SQL, because there are the data that we have is so big that we don't need entire data. We only need certain part from certain information from that large subset, and that's where SQL is used. So I hope that you must have gotten the understanding of accessing the database. We also say this is a we also say querying the database and accessing the database, they both mean same thing. And this can also SQL can also use to manipulate the database. By manipulation, what we mean? So this is the table that we are discussing right now. Now there might have happened that this detail is wrongly filled. Utsav might not have scored 60 marks in physics, whatever marks he has scored, but his marks is not 60. For example, he has scored 61 marks. Now we want to update this particular row. So basically SQL will help us to update this field. We can update this. We can write a query, that a command that will help us to update the marks of Utsav in physics. There might be the case that there are certain students who should be there, but they are no अभी उनका नाम यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ नहीं है. So we can write a query कि हमें इन 4 students को और ऐड करना है. Basically we can modify the table. देर माइट बी अ केस जहाँ पे हमें फॉर एग्जांपल टोनी क्लास 10th में है ही नहीं, टोनी इस स्कूल में पढ़ता ही नहीं, तो टोनी की रो को ही डिलीट करना पड़ेगा. सो वी कैन एज वेल एज डिलीट द रिकॉर्ड्स फ्रॉम अ पर्टिकुलर टेबल. So this is basically what we meant when we are saying we can manipulate the databases. And by databases we basically mean table, because database में basically tables ही हैं जिनको जिसमें records filled हैं. So SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It lets you access and manipulate databases. This is just we discussed right now. So this is a very comprehensive definition of SQL. What can SQL do? So if you understand all these statements, you will have much better clarity about SQL. So SQL can execute queries against a database. We just discussed it can retrieve data from a database. We can insert record. For example, there are certain students in class 10th whose name need to be updated here. We can update that. We can delete record. For example, I just say कि ऐसा हो सकता है कि टोनी अभी स्कूल में नहीं पढ़ता, so we can delete Tony record from that database. We can create new databases as well. For example, right now the database that we discussing is marks. We might want a new database where we only want personal information of students. So we can create a new database with name personal info, and then we can create corresponding tables inside that database. We can create new tables in database. For example, this is one table that we just discussed, marks. We want more information about, like, who is the class teacher of a particular class. So we can create a new table with name class teacher, and with that, based on requirement, we can create multiple tables in a database. SQL can create stored procedures in a database. SQL can create views in database. SQL can set permissions on table, procedures, and views. So we will study all about all these in our subsequent videos. But for now, you just try to understand the meaning of querying, manipulating the databases. So although SQL is a standard language, but there are different versions of SQL. So what we mean here? So there are Microsoft SQL, then we have Oracle SQL, then there are certain other versions of SQL. So SQL although एक standard है, but बहुत सारे versions available हैं SQL के, like एक Hive SQL होता है. So basically there is very minor difference in terms of syntax. Rest the fundamentals, everything is same. There are some minor differences most of the time in syntax only, and सारे syntax में भी difference नहीं होता है. Only in certain commands there are certain differences. Rest everything is same. So this is for your information only. Now where we can use SQL if we are building a website. So if you see, if you want to build any website, what you basically need, what you basically require, you require a database, you require a server side scripting language, basically backend. Then you need this HTML CSS to style the page, basically front end. Then you can use SQL to get the data we want. For example, let's take the example of the marks table that we are just discussing. Now I basis the certain filter, I just require name of students who are studying in class 10th. So I can on the screen, on the front end screen, on the UI, I can make a filter that marks and class. In the class I will click 10th, and then SQL will give the data from that database, where we will receive three records: Utsav, Barak, and there were three students, Tony. Yeah. So this is how we can use SQL in website as well. So RDBMS, yes, this is very basis for SQL. RDBMS stands for Relational Database Management System, and this is the basis for SQL and for all modern database systems such as MS SQL Server, IBM, Oracle, MySQL, and Microsoft Access. This is the basis for all modern database system. And the data in RDBMS is stored in database objects called table. So this is very simple to understand. Basically we are saying कि जो डेटा है RDBS में, वो ऑब्जेक्ट्स में स्टोर होता है, और ऑब्जेक्ट्स यहाँ पे क्या है, टेबल. एंड टेबल क्या है, टेबल इज अ कलेक्शन ऑफ रोज एंड कॉलम. एंड so this is basically a comprehensive understanding of this definition of table only. So जो हमारे कॉलम्स होते हैं, जैसे यहाँ पे नेम है, फिजिक्स, केमिस्ट्री, मैथ्स, क्लास, इनको हम फील्ड बोलते हैं, बट जो हमारी रोज होती हैं, लाइक उत्सव एक की के करस्पॉन्डिंग एक रो है, बराक के करस्पॉन्डिंग एक रो है, इनको रिकॉर्ड्स बोलते हैं। तो जो हमारे कॉलम हैं वो फील्ड हैं, और जो हमारे रोज हैं वो रिकॉर्ड्स हैं। और आप अगर देखोगे भी तो रिकॉर्ड जनरली रोज की फॉर्म में ही होते हैं। So this is just a broad understanding about a table. What is table? So with this we have completed our introduction to SQL. I hope you must have gotten some understanding about SQL. And if still there are certain doubts that you might have, you can comment in the comment section, or you need certain clarity on any particular part that we just discussed, you can ask that as well. So thank you.